Warning, we are not trained or licensed professionals. Do not take any advice that we give as official doctoral prescribed medical treatment. We only use the name as a means to appreciate cinema as a therapeutic device, not to be confused with drugs, antidepressants, or any other forms of enhancements that you might find in legal states. Please enjoy responsibly.
Additional disclaimer. If the film says we can say it too. So check the film rating, and that will be our episode rating.
Hello.
What's up, Jake?
I don't know. I
do.
If you say the sky...
Oh god, no, I would never say that.
Gosh, sorry.
Gosh, freaking idiot. I know that what's up is that we're going to talk about The Silence of the Lambs today.
Oh, well, I knew that. So we are talking about Silence of the Lambs today.
Correct.
Well, I watched the wrong movie, damn it.
Did you watch The Silence of the Pigs?
No, I watched The Silver Chair.
Oh, no.
Whoops.
All right, we'll come back next week.
Okay. Wait, which one are we doing this week? Which one are we doing next week?
Okay, we'll do the Silver Chair, and then The Silence of the Lambs.
But you haven't seen The Silver Chair.
Nope, I have not.
All right, so I'll tell you what it's about. It's about a boy and a girl, and then this a marshwiggle, and then they have to go find the lost prince, and then giants and underground caves and a bunch of other stuff happens. And it's very long. 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
I don't know what that movie is. I don't know if I want to watch it.
Yeah, you don't need to see it.
Okay. We can just watch The Silence of the Lambs and talk about it then.
The Silver Chair is one of the Narnia books, and it is the movie they were going to make next, and then they still haven't made it after 11 years. So.
Oh.
But there was a version made in the early 90s, and I have it on VHS, and I'm staring at it. Not the movie,
really?
But the VHS. Yeah, so in the late 80s, early 90s, they did a Narnia adaptation. They did the first 4 books, and then they didn't do the last 3 for some reason. And then for the Disney movies, the Disney Walden movies, they did, the first 3, and then they were going to do more, and then there was a whole rights entanglement. And now Netflix has the rights, and it's up in the air what they're going to do. And all I want, if they do Last Battle, I just want Georgie Henley and James McAvoy to share the screen again.
Who's Georgie Henley?
Georgie Henley is Lucy, and James McAvoy is obviously Mr. Tumnus.
Gotcha. Okay, I did not know they made those in the 80s.
Yeah, they're kind of bad, but they're kind of not bad. They're kind of good at the same time. For the most part, the kid actors do a pretty solid job, but the effects are sometimes great and sometimes awful and sometimes horrifying. They made one movie out of Prince Caspian and the Dawn Treader, or I guess 2 movies, but that's like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is 2 tapes, and then Silver Chair is 2 tapes, and then the other 2 are 2 tapes, but the same case. The pacing in the other 2, especially Prince Caspian's, a little bit off, which ironically in the Disney version, that's the one they extended the most. You have a version of the filmed version that's really short, and you have a filmed version that's really long.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's something you didn't know. I'm a little surprised, but...
Yeah, I had no idea. That's awesome.
There's also a 70s animated Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie, but I've never seen it. No contest. The first Disney movie is the best Narnia thing ever that's been filmed.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
So this is Silence of the Lambs. I'll wait a little bit because I don't want to do too much information at once, but I'll do a little deep dive into the whole chronology of this series as well.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And I'll probably just, if you don't mind, I'll probably just tell you what happens in the other stuff because, I've heard the Hannibal TV series is amazing, but as far as the movies go, Silence of the Lambs is easily still the best one.
Yeah, obviously. It won 5 Oscars.
Also, screw the Oscars, but yes. all of them were very well deserved.
Yeah, I agree. The Silence of the Lambs was released in 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme and starring Jodie Foster as Clarice and Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. Clarice is in FBI training and gets assigned to a big case involving a serial killer named Buffalo Bill. Clarice's job is to get information about Bill by talking to imprisoned Hannibal, formerly a talented psychotherapist who also happens to be a cannibalistic serial killer.
Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins in this movie are two of the greatest performances in cinema. Like, they're both so freaking good, and they work together so well. Like, every scene they two share is just, like, literal, just, like, perfection. It's so great. Like, but because, like, in another movie, you'd be waiting around for those scenes, but this movie, like, every scene is so enthralling, you're just, like, you forget about it, and then when it comes back, you're like, oh, yay, more of this.
I was clenched up the entire time. I was just stressed. I had all my pillows and my blankets around me, and I was just like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Even though I knew kind of what was gonna happen, but I was still just like scared. And I was like, man, I really need to get another lock on my door. I need to make sure. And then actually I got up halfway through the movie and my front door was unlocked. I was like, oh my god. So enthralling. I hadn't seen it in a long time, like over 5 years. It was better than I remember. Jodie Foster is now my new role model. She is the best heroine I've ever seen, and I love her.
In this movie or in every movie?
Mostly this movie because, well, I really want to rewatch Contact now. Mm-hmm. And then Taxi Driver I've seen a long time ago. I don't really remember it. I could watch that again for sure. So I mostly know her from this movie.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I was just looking her up, and she's in the original Freaky Friday movie.
Oh, yeah. We probably don't need to watch that, though, because, like, how can you beat the one that we grew up with?
Yeah, you can't beat it for us.
Obviously, we're biased, but, like, yeah. Yeah, those are the same 3 movies I've seen her in, are Taxi Driver, Contact, and Silence of the Lambs. And I thought I'd seen her in more movies, because she's a really great actress.
I know, like, why isn't she in everything?
Exactly.
Gosh, yeah, every scene she's in, she just has so much emotion. Like, you can tell what she's thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's just so real and very impressive.
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins is just creepy, man.
He's very elegant and eloquent in the role. Whenever I watch this movie, I never really see him as an antagonist. Even when Clarice is like, he's not gonna come after me, because he has this respect and admiration and love for her.
Yeah.
Even though he's really creepy and really intense in all those wonderful ways, it's never like Buffalo Bill where it's like, I'm legitimately terrified.
Yes.
Because most of the scenes you see him with are with Clarice. You know that he's not going to hurt her or harm her in any way.
Yeah. He's like an ally and almost a friend.
Yeah.
But he's just like such a monster.
Which the later books definitely get into, which I will get into later. The only book of the series I've read is Red Dragon. I did want to read Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal, I just never did, for one reason or another. But Hannibal especially, the third one, because it's the continuing story of Hannibal and Clarice, and like it's, from what I understand, it's quite different than the Ridley Scott movie. So that's why I was always curious to read it, but it's like really long. I don't know how it ends, so. Okay. Which is like so uncultured to me to be like, oh, I know how it ends, I don't need to read it. It's like in When Harry Met Sally when, well, it's actually not like that at all, but it reminds me of in When Harry Met Sally when he says like, whenever I start a new book, I always read the last page in case I die while reading it. That way I know how it ends.
What else did I write down? I wrote down...
Are you trying to talk like Jodie Foster now?
You know why? Oh God, how does she talk? Like a southern, but like Holly Hunter too. So she's just like, yes sir. It just really jumps right in. There's not a lot of setup. Just a long time for it. Just really jumps in, and thank you, sir. That's the only line I could think. That was
perfect. That was perfect.
Anyway,
10 out of 10. They should hire you to do the audiobook.
Oh my god, I would die.
That'd be so fun. Well, okay, it'd be like an audio drama, so like you would just do her lines.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if they can get Jodie Foster, they'll get Jodie Foster, but like...
Hell yeah. What's she doing nowadays? She can do her own audiobook.
I would actually love that.
So yeah, I just noticed that there was not a lot of setup. It just jumped straight in. The only thing, the first thing I said to you was like, man, it's taken her a long time to get to her boss's office, but it was just like during the credits and everything, so I was like... She's just like running through the forest, then running through the FBI camp, then running through the whole building, then like in each room, and then she's waiting for him, and then finally she gets to talk to him. But then right after that, boom, we need you to go talk to Hannibal the Cannibal.
And you're just in right away.
Then you're in it. Yep, it's great. I love it.
It's one of those movies where like it just builds and builds, and like every scene just gets better and better, like as it goes on, and then by the end you're just exhilarated, and then there's like the last 10 minutes which are just so harrowing and intense. And
Although I totally screamed when Hannibal escaped and did his whole trick thing.
I know
when
you
I
did.
realized what was happening, I was like, I hope my neighbors didn't hear me. It's genuine.
It was
freaked
genuine. Like I've never heard you scream genuinely, so that was
out.
that happened.
Oh man, yeah. Because I had forgotten that happened, but then once I realized it, I was like, oh my god. Then it was the Buffalo Bill and Clarice part for like the next 20-30 minutes, and I kind of wish we could have gone back to the Hannibal part at some point, but then also it's like, oh, it would totally ruin the flow of the Buffalo Bill and Clarice part, so I don't know. But I was just like, oh, I forgot I'm watching this movie that also is about Hannibal Lecter.
Movie wise, except for Manhunter, this is the one that definitely like keeps somebody else besides Hannibal at the forefront, because Clarice is definitely the main character, as she should be. That is one thing, is like when you kind of forget that you're watching a Hannibal Lecter movie. They gave Anthony Hopkins those like eye drops, like those numbing eye drops, that's so he wouldn't blink as much.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh god. Oh, I went to this seafood restaurant in Charleston. It's called Hyman Seafood, and they have these special tables that you go to, and they have little plaques on them saying like who sat there, who is famous. And
Yeah.
I sat at the same spot that Anthony Hopkins sat at that restaurant.
What did you eat?
Salmon croquette topped with shrimp, and it was really, really good. I wonder what he ate. Not fava beans, that's for sure.
No. One thing about Silence of the Lambs that I find really interesting, pretty much all of the men in the movie objectify Clarice or see her as lesser, except eventually for Jack Crawford. But Hannibal is that way 99% the whole movie. Like he sees her as her, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I really picked up on watching it this time. Like the first time they meet, he's kind of toying with her, but then when he calls her back, and every time after that, like he's always like treats her as a, I mean, obviously he's crazy, but he treats her as a person.
That's the thing, is like he's such a lunatic, but we feel like he is like the higher power.
It's like we trust him through Clarice, kind of.
Yeah. Because she sees him. She knows that how smart he is. We can see how smart he is because of his previous profession.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably part of the reason why he's so smart, like, and could escape, you know? Like,
Exactly.
that takes a lot of intelligence to get away with escaping a maximum security prison. Clarice is seeking information from him because she knows he knows, but then she's also smart enough to keep up with his antics. Like, he throws crap at her, all of his anagrams and tricks and stuff, and she just jumps right on. She has it. That makes her much more impressive, and which I think makes him like her that much more.
Yes, exactly.
Did that make any sense? I don't know.
No, that did make sense. They have this like obvious connection where they both bring each other something that nobody else can, but they can't. She can't ever trust him because he's so, you know, he's Hannibal the cannibal.
I wanted to know if the moth in this movie was a real thing because it looked so unbelievable, but it indeed is a real moth. It's called Acherontia atropos, or Death's Head hawk moth.
Seems legit.
And it really does have like a skull-shaped thing on its back. And it also has like a little squeaking noise that it makes. This article from bbc.com says most moths make a sound by rubbing their legs or wings together, but this one has a built-in flute. So let me see if I can play this recording for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
But yeah, I just find that fascinating that that's a real moth because it's so morbid. And I also wanted to know if Hannibal... Well, actually, I knew he was based on a real killer, but I wanted to know which one. So I figured it out. For the longest time, the writer of the novel, what's his name?
Thomas Harris.
Thomas Harris wanted to keep it a secret. But in 2013, The Silence of the Lambs had a 25th anniversary to its novel. And Thomas Harris said that he based Hannibal the Cannibal on this Mexican doctor that he actually met in the 60s.
Interesting.
Harris was he was a journalist doing a story on Mr. Simmons, and he learned that Mr. Simmons was taken to a Dr. Salazar who performed life-saving surgery on him. And Harris wanted to interview the surgeon, and he thought he was a prison doctor, but the doctor actually was another prisoner in the jail who just happened to be like a surgeon. So he helped Mr. Simmons, and then while Harris was interviewing him, Dr. Salazar started asking him all these like very personal questions about himself, just like Hannibal does to Clarice, and that's who he's based off of. So yeah, the reason that the surgeon, Dr. Salazar, ended up in prison, he ended up slicing his lover's throat and chopping him up into little pieces.
I'm glad I'm not eating anything right now.
Salazar's real name was Alfredo Bali Trevino, and the evidence is pretty conclusive. Trevino was a surgeon and convicted murderer. He was in jail during the 60s and also treated Mr. Simmons while he was in prison. So in 1959, Trevino and his lover, Jesus, got in a fight. And then he slit his throat and cut him up into pieces. And Alfredo buried the remains, but he was eventually found out and sentenced to death. Mm-hmm. But he actually got out of prison in 2000, and then later he continued his medical practice, and he helped the poor until he passed away in 2009. Wow. Mexico's crazy.
That is insane.
He got out, and then he was allowed to continue practicing medicine. Wow. Anyway, so that's the real Hannibal inspiration there, even though, you know, like a lot of people say it's Jeffrey Dahmer and stuff because he's the cannibal, but this is what the author says. So that's very interesting. I like that story, even though it's terrible.
Yeah, that was really fascinating. Yeah, one thing I do like in the movie is like it's subtle, but I think Jack Crawford does have a character arc, because in the beginning of the movie he's very much like there's that scene at the funeral before they pull the moth out, which is so gross. But there's a scene at the funeral where he's like, I need to go talk to my men alone, and Clarice, you stay here, because there's no place for a woman, you know?
Right.
And then later he kind of apologizes for it. But then at the end of the movie, like, after she's killed Buffalo Bill and she's had that traumatic experience, like, he, like, puts his arm around her and, like, doesn't let the press, like, talk to her too much, and, like, you know. Mm-hmm. And then at her graduation, he actually, like shakes her hand formally and says, like, you know, congratulations, you did a good job, and like so that was another thing I just noticed, and I think that ties into how Clarice is viewed in this movie, because like Jack Crawford comes to see her as a person, and Hannibal always sees her as a person, which is weird because he's like, you know, a serial killer and insane. Right? That ending though, when Buffalo Bill like has the night vision goggles, that's so intense.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was freaking out. But that's also because I haven't had FBI training, so, you know, good for her.
It's set up earlier when they're doing, like, the practice, and then he's like, you gotta watch out for this angle, and then that's what happens later.
Yeah, the last final 20 minutes or so are just so intense when he's chasing her and she's chasing him, and there's so many doors, and she hears...
Oh, yeah, there's, like, 20 doors.
What's-her-face screaming, and
Catherine.
Then she's like, Catherine, and then...
She's like, Catherine, shut up.
She keeps going through this labyrinth of doors and basement and terrifying things, and then eventually, the lights get shut off, and she has no idea where he is, and he's just right behind her.
It's so creepy. It's easily one of the most tense scenes in any movie, I would say.
There were a lot of, like, centered close-ups of Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
And I think that made her more powerful for the movie. Mm-hmm. We saw her face, her emotions, and like the strength that she has. And I think that really like built her up as a character. It was like a very intimate movie too.
It is. It really is.
Just between Clarice and Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, of course, I mean, there are sexual parts, but they're all like very inappropriate and...
They're not intimate.
Right.
Like the sexual parts of the movie aren't intimate. The intimacy is in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite scene in the movie is the last interaction Clarice, not the second to last interaction Clarice and Hannibal have, but the last scene they really share together is like when she tells him about like what happened to the lamb, you know. Mm-hmm. Like that's my favorite part of the movie. It's just so well shot and well acted, and it's just, you know, I mean, I just go, you can't do it justice. Just go watch that scene.
Yeah, you have to.
It's one of the best acted scenes in any movie ever.
And I really appreciate the title of this movie because they could have just called it Hannibal, like
which
the
they
other
did.
One. But the Silence of the Lambs, like they don't even say that in the movie, and it's just, it means so much. And I love it. I love the creativity behind it. I love the thought that went behind it. And I just appreciate a good title, man.
Like Too Fast, Too Furious.
Exactly.
I
keep looking over my shoulder. I'm getting spooked.
Oh yeah, me too. No joke. We're sensing each other, but not, because it's like creepy. I think it's time for a little bit of history. There's 4 books, and I'll try to keep this as brief as I can because there's a lot of information.
Spoilers for the books.
Spoilers for all the books and all the movies, because I assume you don't care.
Because Silence of the Lambs is the best.
Easily. So there's 4 books, and they were written in this order: Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, Hannibal Rising. There's 5 movies. The first movie is called Manhunter. It was made in the 80s, and it has William Peterson as the main character, and then Brian Cox as Hannibal. And it's Red Dragon, but they call it Manhunter for some reason.
Not to be confused with that show, Manhunter.
Because they're nothing alike from what I can tell. Anyway, Manhunter is a solid 80s movie. The plot of it is, it's the same plot as Red Dragon, because they remade Red Dragon with Anthony Hopkins after Hannibal. So Manhunter and Red Dragon are about this guy named Will Graham, and he's the one that captured Hannibal initially. And then he's like retired with his family, and then Jack Crawford comes by and says like, hey, I think it's Jack Crawford. He comes by and says like, hey, we need you for one more case. We're trying to capture this guy called the Tooth Fairy. And he's like this really sadistic like killer, kind of like Buffalo Bill, except nothing like Buffalo Bill. So that's the plot of that. So then Will Graham has to go to Hannibal and get, you know, clues from him. So it's a very similar plot. So then Silence of the Lambs obviously is second, and it was the second movie made, and then you can watch it on its own and everything. And then the third one is Hannibal, 10 years later, and it's about, at least between the movies, it's 10 years, like 1991, 2001. And it's about Hannibal's living in Florence, and then Clarice is like an FBI agent, like a full agent now, and then Ray Liotta is like her new boss, and he's just such a dick, of course. And then Clarice is still like, because she's a woman and because she's great, no one takes her seriously, and then she gets like dishonorably like fired or whatever. And then Hannibal comes back to see her. So in the movie, the bad guy, he's played by Gary Oldman, and I forget what his name is. And Gary Oldman's like a victim of Hannibal's, but he survives. So he's like all disfigured. He's like the Elephant Man, except he's like not a good person. And so then he wants to get Hannibal. So then he like basically like uses Clarice to get Hannibal back out of hiding. So then Hannibal goes to the States to find Clarice, and trust me, it's not as exciting as I was about to make it sound. Gary Oldman captures Hannibal and is going to feed him to a bunch of pigs, and then Clarice comes in and saves him, and that's like the one like great scene in the movie, because like you feel it, because you're like, yeah, like they're working together. Except it's not Jodie Foster, so you don't really feel it that much. But like think about that. Like imagine if it was Jodie Foster like coming in to save Hannibal. Because like she's on her own, so she's like been fired from the FBI or like suspended or whatever, and then she has like nothing else to do, so she's like, well, I'm gonna go save him. Then they're like working together, and then something happens where Hannibal ends up taking Clarice to this house, and then she's like drugged or whatever, And then this is where the book and the movie are different. So in the movie, there's no real conclusion. Hannibal he also kidnapped Ray Liotta, and he, like, this is kind of gross. He, like, opens his head and starts, like, eating his brain. That's what happens. And then Clarice, like, she's, like, drugged or whatever, so then she, like, fully wakes up and, like, handcuffs Hannibal, and, like, to herself, so then he can't escape. And then he like, raises this, like, blade, and he's gonna cut her arm, but then he, like, cuts his own hand off instead. And then he, like, kisses her, and then he leaves. And then that's how the movie ends. Like the movie ends with him on a plane, and then there's no resolution for either of them. And then the book ends where he becomes, like, her actual therapist, and then kind of messes with her mind, and then they end up going off together, like, to, like, some foreign country, and then they're, like, a couple, and then that's how it ends.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how the book ends, and then Jodie Foster, I think, and the director of the original movie didn't really like that, so then they changed the ending to be an absolute, like, nothing happens in the ending because Hannibal escapes and Clarice is just there, and then Jodie Foster and Jonathan Demme still, like, were busy at the time or doing something else, so they couldn't do it. So then they got Julianne Moore and Ridley Scott, which, don't get me wrong, both of them are great, but, like, you can't have one half of the pair gone with whatever ending you do.
Yeah.
They remade Red Dragon with Anthony Hopkins, and they have Edward Norton being the main guy, and that's a solid movie. And then that's, like, right before Silence of the Lambs. And then Ralph Fiennes, Voldemort, he plays the killer in that one. So
Ooh.
That one's worth watching. Then they did Hannibal Rising, which is a prequel, and the author just wrote the book so they could make the movie. I don't know if he really wanted to write it. And then they made the movie. I forget who the actor is, and that's the only movie I haven't seen. And then there's the Hannibal TV series with Mads Mikkelsen, and I've heard that's great. And that's basically Red Dragon, but it's different. Different things happen. And then they were gonna do the other books, the other two books, and then they were gonna do, like, a conclusion to everything. And then that didn't happen because the show got canceled.
And they have Clarice, yeah.
Yes, which also might have gotten canceled after one season. Because they legally can't mention or cast somebody to be Hannibal, so it's just Clarice after Silence of the Lambs, not mentioning Hannibal, like solving FBI cases or something.
Weird. Okay.
But the main one I wanted to tell you about was Hannibal, because, like, that's a weird way to conclude a sequel.
I know, what? That's really funny.
That's how the book ends, and the book's like 600 something pages, and then the movie literally has no ending.
Awesome.
Hannibal's on a plane talking to this little boy and, like, feeding him, like, pieces of the brain, and then like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that part. Sorry. Yeah, so the last scene in the movie is like Hannibal talking to this little boy, and then he's being, like, like his normal gentleman-like self, and then he has, like, a plate of a bunch of different foods, and then the boy's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know if you'd like that." And then the boy's like, "I want to try it anyway." And Hannibal's like, "Okay," and that's how the movie ends. And then Clarice is just, like, outside the house but can't find Hannibal, and then, like, there's no resolution with her.
Oh my.
And then in the book they end up together, but it's, like, weird because he, like I don't know. I haven't read it, so I don't know exactly how it goes, but that's the gist.
So weird. So
there you go.
But thank you. I appreciate.
I just saved you hours of reading and watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely would not read the books. Reading.
But that's why I was always curious to read Hannibal, because, like, when I got to the ending, I wonder how I'd feel, because it's just so batshit crazy. They do have, trust me, I'm not going to go into a thing where I defend it, because I think it's fucking insane. But but, like, when you watch Silence of the Lambs, the chemistry between the two actors, it's not romantic, but he has, like, this love for her, and then she, like, has, like, this respect for him. So, like, I don't know if that's the way in the book, so maybe, like, in the other book, since it's the characters on paper, maybe it feel like their connection grows and it feels more natural. But, like, in the movie, I doubt it. But in the movie, to begin with, it's like, it's not Jodie Foster, so already it's like, it's more hollow. And then, like, when they reunite, it's like, there's nothing to it, because it's not really them reuniting. So, like, at that point, they should have just, like, rewritten it entirely, which they pretty much did anyway, and just made it a different character.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. That's what you get after 600 pages. like, okay, like, I genuinely want to know what the author was thinking, and I want to know if they ever even considered that in the movie.
Yeah, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, like, what does it mean? What's the purpose? Like, why does Clarice end up here? I think on Hannibal's end it makes sense, because that's, like, where he would want to be, in a way, is, like, at, like, free, or at least, you know, on the run, like, living with her. But, like, for her, at least it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no.
But that's, like, the canonical, book-wise, like, ending to the whole thing. That's, like, the last book, timeline-wise. I genuinely would love to, because I haven't read the book. I genuinely would love to meet somebody who has read all the books, and they, like, unironically, unabashedly adore that ending. No disrespect to anybody who really genuinely likes the ending of that book. It's just really baffling to me. It's really fascinating, and I wonder if I read it, if I would have any feelings about it, but it's just baffling. Yeah, because the first book is Red Dragon, and it's called Red Dragon because that's like, it's like the tattoo on the back of the killer. I forget the significance, but that's why it's called that. And then Hannibal's obvious, like the other titles are so obvious, like the book's called Hannibal, and it has like all that shit in it, like if I had told you that was the plot of the movie, you would have been like, I need to see this movie just to see how weird it is. But like, the movie has none of that. Except for the guy that wants to kill Hannibal that Gary Oldman plays. Like, all the really weird shit in what I assume is the last 100 pages is just gone.
I'm trying to look up the narrative structure of The Silence of the Lambs, because we were talking about how we thought maybe each therapy session was Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
Oh, yeah.
But let me see if this lays it out for us. We have the first act ends as we are introduced to Buffalo Bill, the real problem on Starling's hands. So when is that? When he takes in Catherine. Or before that, when they're discussing him in the FBI.
Yeah, it's like right before that, I think.
Okay. So the second act continues with like Buffalo Bill and everything. Okay, so the second act has like when Lecter moves to Tennessee and then he escapes. And then the third act, she has like her false hope moment. She figures out that Buffalo Bill's a seamstress, but then the FBI's like, no, we got him, don't worry. And then she follows her gut and goes to the actual Buffalo Bill's house. So that's kind of where Act 3 begins. So I guess it doesn't really have much to do with the therapy sessions, but there were, 3 important therapy sessions that happened. And yeah, I remember what you said. It was great. You're like, maybe I'm like Clarice. I only need 3 therapy sessions. Yes, that's great. I love that.
Great. That sounds great.
Because that's all she needed.
Exactly.
I just want to say that the fashion in 1990 was whack. Nobody is attractive. Nobody. Except maybe Jodie Foster. Maybe. But like all of the men look disgusting.
I think that's intentional.
I guess. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. Because they're all scumbags.
Yes. Except for Jack Crawford. And kind of Hannibal, ironically.
Right, but they still both look really gross.
Yes, exactly.
Jack in the beginning is like, he's just a boss. Which, okay, honestly, I was feeling like really connected. I just really loved how she handled things, and it inspired me. It did.
I think that's my favorite thing about watching this movie again is the fact that it inspired you. Because that's...
Aww.
No, I mean that because it's you, but also because in general, like, I think that's one of the most powerful techniques of cinema, is that you see something, you relate to it, and it inspires you, and it makes you want to be more confident or be a better person or change something about yourself. I just think that's fucking amazing. Like, that's great. Like kudos to you and to this movie and to the reaction you got from it.
I also wanted to talk about Jodie Foster. Okay, why did I not know she's gay?
You didn't know that?
No. Oh, man. Okay, yeah, so she's married to Alexandra, la 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 la.
Oh, I didn't know this. Her real name is Alicia Christian Foster.
Yeah, interesting, huh? Where'd she get Jodie?
I don't know.
I mean, Jodie fits her more than Alicia.
Yeah.
Or Alicia or whatever. But, okay, yeah. So she's married to Alexandra Hedison, who formerly dated Ellen DeGeneres.
Yes, that is true.
And she was also in a relationship with Sidney Bernard from 93 until 2008, and they actually had 2 sons together. So I don't know what her sons are up to, but I'd be interested in that. Okay, let's see. When did she come out? She first publicly acknowledged it in a speech at the Hollywood Reporters Women in Entertainment Breakfast honoring her in 2007. 2007 she came out? Oh, and then in 2013, she addressed her coming out in a speech after receiving the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the 70th Golden Globe Awards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't know that, but I didn't. I guess I really have not paid attention to Jodie Foster ever. So I'm really liking all this stuff I'm finding out, because this part, oh my gosh, she had a stalker who ended up being the person who attempted assassination on Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
What?
Did you didn't know that either?
No, I didn't know that either. I was like, excuse me?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So he thought that would impress her, was to.
Yeah, like.
Yeah.
What? Crazy guy. Good thing she has already dealt with, like, being, I mean, in a movie, but still, like, dealt with crazy people.
Yeah. It's. Wait, was that before or after Sounds of the Lambs?
Actually, no, it was before. It was way before.
Yeah, yeah. It says she hasn't really talked about it publicly either, but I mean, I don't blame her for that, because I wouldn't want to talk about that publicly. That's awful.
I'd be like,
nobody
like,
should.
Do you blame me for, like, trying to someone to shoot Ronald Reagan? Like what?
God, that's awful.
Ugh.
So there's these rabbits that like that like they're like in our little, like, 'cause we have a little path from the road to our apartment. And there's little rabbits that like are always like sitting there or something, and like I just want to like pick one up and like adopt one, but like,
oh my god,
like,
that's so cute.
And then yeah, so like in like Narnia heaven, like I would just sit and just like with a rabbit for like hours and just like,
Jake,
that's
you
what I would do.
should get a rabbit.
What would I name it?
You need a rabbit. You'd name it Lucy.
Okay. I know too many Lucys. Which Lucy is this? Is this Lucy Deakins, or is it, what Lucys is it? There's so many Lucys.
It's Lucy Deakins and Lucy from Narnia.
And Lucy Hartfilia. Spoilers for, wait, have you read the Narnia books?
I think I read some of them. I'm not sure if I got all the way through.
Do you want me to spoil how it ends?
Yeah.
So in the last book, everybody except for the older sister dies, and they all go to Narnia again, but it's actually like heaven, but it's Narnia. The first scene when Lucy goes into Narnia for the first time and meets James McAvoy, then that's the last scene of the series too, is that they reunite after after a long time. And then I'm just like, if they ever film that, can they just use those 2 actors again? Like if they could bring all the main 4 kids back, that'd be great. I just want to see those 2 again.
Yeah, they were great on screen together. That's kind of trippy. I got chills just now listening to you say that, but
oh, that's awesome.
That's so weird, but
yeah,
I like it.
Obviously, the first book is the 4 kids and the wardrobe, and then the second book, when they go back to Narnia, it's like 1,000 years, but it's only like a year of our time. Mm-hmm. And then Don Treader has Eustace, and then Silver Chair. So Don Treader, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie or not, but it's like Lucy and Edmund, the 2 younger ones, and then their cousin Eustace, and he's in We're the Millers, if you've ever seen that movie.
Oh, yeah, what's his name?
Will Poulter.
Yeah, Will Poulter. Okay.
He was going to be Pennywise initially, and then that didn't happen.
I could see that.
Yeah.
He's got a crazy ass face.
Yeah, so he's the annoying cousin Eustace in Don Treader, and then he gets a redemption arc, and then the 4th one is him and his friend Jill, and they go to Narnia to find Caspian's lost son.
Okay, it's Eustace and his sister?
Friend Jill. No,
his friend.
His friend Jill. And it's like they go from school, yeah, and then they go from school like into Narnia, and then they have to go find Caspian's lost son, and that's the plot.
Jeez.
And then since I'm warp speeding through these, then the 5th book is it's okay. So the books were written like there's a whole deal because like when the books got like reprinted in the U.S. like in like the 90s or something, they'd been out in the U.S. before, but like when the new publishing company bought them, they put them in chronological order and renumbered the books. So like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is 2, but then like it doesn't always work because one of the books is like in between 2 chapters of one book. That doesn't make any sense. And then that's like a huge thing of debate. So first of all, think about that. So The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe is clearly the first story. Like, the way it starts and the way you are introduced to the world and everything, right? Every adaptation just does that one. But then when I think it's HarperCollins, when they bought the books in the 90s and republished them, they put that as the second one. But it doesn't make any sense. When you read what is now the first book, it's like there's things that they mention and you're like, what does this mean? What does that mean? But anyway, so in the original order, the correct order in my opinion, the 5th book is called The Horse and His Boy, and it takes place during like the 15 or so years that the 4 kids are like kings and queens of Narnia. Like, remember at the end of the movie, there's like a time jump, and then when they come back to the real world, they're just kids. Mm-hmm. In Narnia, when they're adults as the king and the queen, that's like the backdrop, but then there's like a whole other story happening, and that's what The Horse and His Boy, the 5th book, is.
Whoa.
And then in the new order, they repurposed it as book 3, but it's really not book 3 because it takes place during the last chapters of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because there's a time jump.
Oh.
It doesn't make any sense. And then the penultimate book is called The Magician's Nephew, and it's probably my favorite one. It's a prequel, and it's about the creation of Narnia. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there's like the old professor. Remember him?
The beaver?
No. I'm sorry. In the real world... in the real world, the 4 Pevensey kids go to the house because there's World War II going on. They go into the big old house, and that's where the wardrobe is. So the guy who owns the house, he's like the professor. The movie ends with him saying to Lucy, like, I've been to Narnia. And then that's what this book is. It's like him as a young boy seeing Narnia being created.
Sweet.
And it's great. And then after that is the last book, which is where Narnia gets it's Eustace and Jill again. And then it's like been also another 1,000 years for Narnia. And then they see Narnia get like destroyed because, you know, power's corrupting and like there's nobody really good left. And then like everybody dies in a train crash and goes to heaven, which is like actually Narnia.
Whoa.
So if you followed all of that, you deserve a medal.
Yeah, thank you. I have not thought about Narnia in a long time, so that was good.
We should watch the first movie again for Christmas. For a Christmas episode.
Ooh,
of sorts.
Okay.
But also that's like one of the most nostalgic movies for me. It's so and it's like still great. From what I remember. I haven't watched it in like probably 4 or 5 years, but like, you know.
Man, yeah, it's been a long time for me.
I remember I saw every movie in the theaters they came out for the 3 movies, and then they haven't made more unless they make Will Poulter like his character older. They're gonna recast him.
Yeah.
Because that's like even being debated too, is like where they're gonna like is like if Netflix makes all the books into movies or shows again or something, what are they gonna do? Even though the characters change, so you'd have to do it differently. Like you could kind of do it like Unfortunate Events, where it's like you do like 2 episodes a book or something like that, and then you could make it like 2 or 3 seasons. Then you could finally adapt the last 3 books onto the screen because they've never been adapted.
Yeah, that kind of is like the series of Unfortunate Events, you know, how they finally just did that.
And it was great. I'd argue it's really well done.
Yeah.
And they stuck the landing too. Like the last episode was pretty solid.
I didn't make it to the last episode, sadly.
That's okay.
I think I've seen season 1 and half of season 2, maybe.
Do you remember how that one ends?
No.
So pretty much everyone major in the series ends up at a hotel. The hotel gets set on fire. You don't know who lives or who dies. The kids and Count Olaf go on a boat to escape, and then they end up on an island where it's like a dictatorship, and then everyone leaves the island and is poisoned except for the kids. And then somebody that they know, Lemony Snicket's sister, shows up and gives birth to her baby and then dies. And then Count Olaf helps deliver the baby and dies. And then it's a year later and it's the 3 kids taking care of the baby. And then like they leave the island and that's how the book ends. So it's like really ambiguous.
Oh, wow.
And then the show is somewhat ambiguous, but it's a little more like this is what is implied that happens. And it's like good, so.
Are there 2 seasons or 3 seasons?
There's 3 seasons.
So how does the 3rd season go?
No, that's the end of the third season. That's the end of the show.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
Season 2 ends with the bad guys take Sonny, the baby, and then Violet and Klaus are they're gonna fall off a cliff. It's much easier to explain.
Yeah.
And then wait, how does season 1 ends where they leave the mill, they go to the school, and then they see the other kids, and then it's like, oh, they're gonna be friends, and then that's how season 2 starts. And I was so hyped because like that was my favorite of the books when they like went to school, and then they met the other kids, and I'm like, yes, bonding, I love it.
Yeah. Of course, wasn't there like there was some romance happening in between them too? So I was like interested in that, of course.
Yep. Yeah, me too. And it's never really resolved in either form, book or show, but like that's fine.
That's okay. That's love.
It's okay. That's love. Oh, it's too real. We got too real.
Too real.
Yeah. So you want to jump into what we watched this week?
Yes, I do. What did you watch this week?
So Tuin showed me some stuff.
Oh, what did he show you?
So I had shown him the Fast and Furious movies because he had never seen them, and we're going to go see F9. So more information to come when we watch that. But overall, we enjoyed every movie. There were some I realized I like less. There's some I realized I liked about the same. And yeah, I still haven't seen Hobbs and Shaw, which is the spinoff. But I've seen everything else, and so is Tuin. Actually, Tuin has seen Hobbs and Shaw. So, because that's what he saw first. Ironically. But so Tuin showed me The Nice Guys, the Shane Black movie. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so I thought it was fine. I wasn't like really enamored with it. I enjoyed the second half, and then the first half I was just kind of like but I think I'm just kind of on Shane Black just movies in general.
What else has he done?
Iron Man 3 is just all right, and then he wrote at least the first Lethal Weapon, which is pretty solid, but also directed by Richard Donner. May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace.
But Richard Donner directed two of my all-time favorite childhood films, The Goonies and the first Superman, and then his cut of the second Superman. So yeah, a lot of nostalgia there. But yeah, his movies were always really good. Lethal Weapon is like solid, but like it's not my favorite movie. So I think I'm just not a huge Shane Black fan. Not saying his screenplays are bad, because they are good, but I just don't think I really connect to the style that he has.
That's fair. So I watched this documentary called Fake Famous, and it's about influencers on social media. Clicked on it because I was hella bored, but it actually it taught me a lot about what influencers actually go through, and it's kind of crazy. But it was kind of interesting. It was alright. I wanted to watch Over the Garden Wall because I had heard about it on We Minored in Film. My coworker Jacob had talked about it on We Minored in Film, and oh my god, I loved it. It is amazing. It is it's creepy and it's weird and it's magical, and there's brotherly love that's so cute. And very unique ideas, and then also a kids show. I don't know. Yeah, you said you wanted to watch it, right?
I've always wanted to watch that ever since it came out. I don't know why I haven't.
You should. Then I watched Judd Apatow's This Is 40, which is kind of a sequel to Knocked Up. It's about Katherine Heigl's sister, Leslie Mann, in the movie, which Leslie Mann is actually Judd Apatow's wife, and Judd Apatow and Leslie Mann's kids, Maud and the other one, are in the movie. They're in Knocked Up and they're
the
in
other
This Is
one.
40. They're great. It's just so real. My review on Letterboxd is, it's like if Before Midnight was funny.
I saw that and I love that, and it makes me want to watch it.
It's exactly like that, because it's just the hardships of marriage and having young kids, but it's also hilarious.
Lovely.
Okay, so then I also watched The Mitchells versus the Machines. Wasn't a huge fan.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty cliche, but I really liked the animation style and the way it was kind of comic-y.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought the story was Oh, okay, what did I say? I said the story was like a cliche on a cliche sandwich with a side of cliche.
Okay.
That's the way I felt about it.
No, I mean, that's totally valid. However you feel about a
Yeah.
movie is however you feel about a movie.
But I do appreciate the main character being like a film student. I like that. That was cute.
Yeah, I loved that part. I felt like I felt similar to it, but like not 100%, but like similar enough where I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, total sense, like coming from a small town like we do, because we're like, nobody understands us in our small town, and then we go to film school and like everyone understands us.
We literally find
You know?
our tribe, and we're in the center of it.
Yeah. And I love Abby Jacobson too, because from Broad City, she's just amazing. She's so funny. It was a great cast for sure. But yeah, I don't know. The story just didn't hit for me. So also I watched Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World from 2003. Noah showed me this. He was like, have you seen this? I was like, no. Never even heard of that. But it was like really epic. It was Russell Crowe about like a British warship fighting the French and Napoleon Bonaparte. It was pretty interesting. It was good. Very dramatic, very epic.
Interesting.
All right, then I watched Bo Burnham Inside. Oh wait, what did you have to say?
I think I watched some of Master and Commander when I was a kid, but I don't remember a single thing about it. And I don't think I watched a lot of it because I think I went to sleep.
That's fair.
I think I was like 8 years old and I was staying at somebody's house and we started watching it, and then I was like, I want to watch something else. Then it was too late and we just went to sleep.
Yeah, it was a pretty long movie, and I definitely could understand how you could fall asleep during it.
I was 8 years old.
Also, you were 8 years old. I would
Ish.
not have liked this movie when I was 8.
No. Yeah, so you watched Bo Burnham Inside. Please do. I know it's a special, but please don't spoil anything.
I won't. It's amazing. That's all I'm going to say. I laughed so hard. It was amazing. So funny. And just very real, too. Like, I loved it. I was expecting it to be more depressing than it was, but it was just real. Like, it wasn't, like, really... It wasn't, like, sad. It was, like... He was just spitting truth and spitting jokes. Like, it was so funny.
I love that man. I love that man.
Yeah.
Confession time. I had not seen anything Bo Burnham until very, very recently.
Oh, really?
Tune and I had a trade-off. He was going to primer me on Bo Burnham, and I'm going to primer him on David Lynch. So we started with a couple songs from Words, and then we watched one. And I loved it so much. I love Bo Burnham.
Yay!
So we're going to watch Make Happy, 8th Grade, and Inside.
Eighth grade!
And I mean this in the most loving way. Tuin has praised the everlasting shit out of everything Bo Burnham, and he says everything just keeps getting better and better and better, and I am so ready to watch those three things and to just feel so many emotions. So that is the next thing we're going to watch. So we have Make Happy, 8th Grade, and Inside, and I could not be more excited to watch all those.
Oh my god.
I'm so ready. I'm so ready to cry and to laugh and to cheer and to like what is so good like already. So the fact that like this is like his starting point is like damn.
Yeah. 8th grade, you're gonna love it. I can't believe you haven't seen it yet?
No, I haven't. Tune and I have talked about watching it like for like ever since it came out, and I just never have seen it yet, and I don't know why.
You're gonna love it. I can't wait for you to watch it. I need to rewatch it. I'm gonna rewatch it.
I'm so ready.
All right, so let me go through the last two things I watched. The Last of the Mohicans.
Never seen it.
Not my kind of movie. Sorry.
It looked really dull, to be honest.
That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, the last thing I watched, I went to Goodwill and I found The Ring, which I had never seen before, surprisingly. What? Who am I?
I've never seen it.
Oh, okay. I think you would like it.
No, I don't think I would. That's why I haven't seen it.
No, I think you would. It's got a really good story, and
Maddie, just because it's about a VHS tape doesn't mean I'm going to automatically like it.
Yeah, seriously, it's on brand for you. VHS, hello. But
should I watch it on VHS or no?
And Naomi Watts' Hello.
Oh, Naomi Watts. Yeah. Okay.
So I think you need to watch it. So I bought the DVD and it was actually a full screen DVD and I was like, shit, but.
Wait. So did it say full screen on it, or was it like you didn't? It's not like clear. Then you just like saw it like when the movie started. You're like, fuck.
No, it totally said full screen on the cover, but I didn't pay attention and I was like, whatever. It's $2. I don't care. I'm gonna buy it. So yeah, it was good. I really liked it. Yeah,
it's awesome.
The whole story. It wasn't just like a stupid horror film, which I thought it was gonna be. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I bought it. Yeah.
That's so great. I'm so glad you liked it.
I think you need to watch it. Yeah.
I will only watch it with you, but you have to be in the room next to me.
Oh, jeez.
Do you know that it's based on a Japanese horror movie? It's an American remake.
Yes. I want to see that one.
Because there's Ringu 2, and then there's another Japanese one, and then there's 3 for the US ones. I don't know if Naomi's in all of them. Yeah, there's The Ring 2, and Rings.
Oh my god.
The third one's called Rings. Like, how stupid is that?
Rings.
And then there's 8 for the Japanese series, because there's Ringu, Spiral, not to be confused with the Saw movie, because it's a Saw movie also called Spiral. Ringu 2.
Naomi Watts is in The Ring too.
The third one's called Ringu Zero. That's like Fast and Furious titles right there. Yeah, I was probably a prequel. Anyway, yeah, so there's all the Ringu movies and the Ring movies. The Grudge is the same way, where the American movie's a remake of the Japanese horror movie.
I also have not seen The Grudge, but I really want to see that too. Okay, yeah, Naomi Watts is not in Rings, but she's in The Ring too.
The Grudge is a creepy poster. Look it up.
Oh yeah, I know.
I want to watch Candyman with Virginia Madsen.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's watch that sometime.
Okay. Okay, so do you want to continue what you watched this week?
Oh, no, that was everything I watched this week.
That's all you watched?
So,
okay.
Yeah, was those two things. Oh, because we were watching Fast and Furious.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so thanks for listening this week. This feels like a normal episode, because we meant to talk about Silence of the Lambs, and we ended up talking about a bunch of other shit. So now I feel like we're back to normal. And that feels really good.
Next time, we will be having another very important, very special guest, and we will be watching When Harry Met Sally. So get ready for that.
Yeah,
Can't
so
wait.
Tune in next week. Keep therapizing.
Keep therapizing.